Discord? Do we have Discord video? Okay, there's no Discord video. Okay, it is now. Okay, fantastic. Okay. That doesn't make sense. Oh, Alessio, I'm glad you discovered that emoji. That was there for you, by the way. I created that for you. So anyways, welcome everyone to the PYRESWAP show for Market Mondays. I think this is probably like the best show of the week, to be honest. Like I think that like the Monday show, we start early, and as you guys know, the morning is when you have the majority of your mental faculties with you, and then on top of that, you end up with I actually end up covering like the news cycle and finance and econ news, and I always make sure that like the Monday show is like the best one ever. But anyways, for Market Mondays today, we can start off with, I could start off with the Fear and Greed Index, and I want you guys to know something. It looks neutral today. It looks neutral for Bitcoin. I'm talking about Bitcoin. Coin market cap. We're talking about Fear and Greed Index. And by the way, do you guys know what Fear and Greed Index means? Do you guys understand the general concept of Fear and Greed Index? I didn't realize that people didn't know what this meant. But alternative.me ranks it at 48. And coin market cap at 45, which are both neutral scores. So, like, as far as Fear and Greed Index goes, it is an incredibly neutral day. Indeed. Indeed. Does that make sense, everybody? It really says a lot, I think, about human nature, where you have Bitcoin at like $64,800, and people are just, they're just like, what is even the word I would describe? They're restless, like they're disappointed with it. I actually read this really long post earlier this morning about like just saying every single narrative of use case that like meme coins had killed it all. Isn't that crazy, you guys? First of all, I want to say, how crazy is it that we are building the dApp that finalizes the smart contract use case, that completes it completely? Does that make sense? In the same era that there is, because of meme coins, people are throwing it out completely. Like, it's like, hey, by the way, there was never a fucking use case coming. There was never a use case coming. So we're arriving as the use case, as a dApp. We're arriving as the use case at the exact moment people think that, hey, by the way, this entire narrative was a fucking scam. It was only Bitcoin all along. So some people are saying that Bitcoin will be even a larger fraction of the market cap. Like, it'll continue growing and everything else will just keep getting smaller and sucked into it. CJ, that's not going to do anything, though. Yeah, is that what he's doing? Yeah, I guarantee you, if you want a business model that doesn't make any fucking sense, it's that one. Yeah. Yeah, nobody cares about that. Yeah, it's one of those dApps. It's like, why did you put it on blockchain? It's like, well, I thought I could make more money with it. It's like, nah, it's not the case. Yeah, those things will fucking fall flat on their face. Yeah, like, again, like, you're not going to have nominal rigidity. Like, are you paying with money you're not supposed to have? Yeah, CJ, but they do as soon as it goes back down, whereas nobody will care about that perpetually. Yeah, CJ, and by the way, it's your vault too if you're in my organization. So, be consistent. Appreciated. Yeah, thank you, CJ, for being a pillar of the community. I'm not always going to be here. I'm not always going to be here to remind you guys how wrong you are, by the way. Okay? So appreciate these moments. Anyways. So, by the way, today's a federal holiday and the bond market is closed. So there's not really anything to cover as much as like the, I guess you could say like government instruments. Generally speaking, they say that there is a higher speculation, by the way, that there will be no rate cut in November. This went from 3% to 8%, to 18%, sorry. Chance of no November. This is people effectively in a side bet about the Fed. Does that make sense? So people take a side bet about the Federal Reserve and its rate cuts, and they went from 3% thinking there would be no rate cut to an 18%. So that's like a 6x in sentiment in the last few weeks. I don't really, yeah, this is true, Charlotte. Yeah, which is why, like, they might cut it again. But to be honest, they literally have less than a month, right? Like, doesn't everybody vote in, like, the early part of November? You mean that it plays into the decision? Yeah. Anyways, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So again, I think that it could be a factor, but then also, like, they still have to kind of, like, do their job regardless who's fucking in office. Now, speaking of which, here's a fun piece of information from Market Monday. Did you guys know, by the way, stocks are closing at record highs here and there, and almost half, here, I'm gonna write this out here. Almost half of all political donations to both candidates, I can say both parties, almost half come from pro-crypto organizations. Are you guys aware of this? Are you guys aware of this? This is apparently new as of right now. In fact, let me see. Okay, there you go. This is the screenshot we'll use. So, big crypto spending. This is actually from earlier this year, and apparently it's getting circulated again. Big crypto, big spending. Crypto corporations spend an unprecedented $119 million influencing elections. This has supposedly already happened more. Anyways, in 2024, crypto corporations have poured over $119 million directly into this. Crypto corporations are probably the most dominant corporate political spenders in 2024. Did you guys know this? The most dominant political spender. By nearly half, 44% of all corporate money contributed during this year's elections came from crypto backers. So, this right here, yeah. Since Citizens United, the crypto corporations are now second in total election-related spending, trailing only fossil fuel corporations. Yeah. The crypto sector's Fair Shake PAC, which, by the way, the Fair Shake PAC, let me see if I can find that again. Yep. Crypto companies, yeah, that money is also being funneled to a nonpartisan super PAC called Fair Shake. So they're using a nonpartisan super PAC, which, by the way, I don't necessarily feel bullish about this, but like I'm just telling you guys, this is real life, which has amassed over $202 million during the 2023-2024 election cycle with the aim of electing pro-crypto candidates and defeating crypto skeptics, whatever that means. Primarily Coinbase and Ripple are now the dominant political spenders. Blah, 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 blah. In fact, since 2010, crypto corporations are the second biggest election-related spenders, trailing like fossil fuels. Like, I mean, like, this doesn't make me bullish, I think you could say, on the, this doesn't make me bullish on the, you know, whatever. I'll just fucking, I'll keep my opinion out of it. Okay, so, you know, they then break down Kamala Harris against fucking Donald Trump here. And generally speaking, they just kind of talk about like how Trump here is going to create a government stockpile, a crypto advisory council or whatever, block the Federal Reserve from creating a CBDC. But I really think these are all kind of like lip service, as it were. And again, like I think Kamala, they say, has now recently changed her language to being more pro-crypto. But I think that this is now like one of those like safe middle grounds. The Crypto for Harris group is also planning a nationwide grassroots fundraiser. Yeah, so there's now a Crypto for Harris fundraiser on Kamala. So now both, I guess you could say, both major parties and candidates have crypto behind them. Actually, let me reopen that real quick. Yeah, so then you have the Fair Shake PAC right here. So Coinbase, 50 million went right into Fair Shake, and then these other things are just other Fair Shake affiliates. Then you have Ripple, also 45 million in a fair shake. Other stuff in the fair shake pack, and again, they're just doing this for this. This is all from OpenSecrets.org, by the way, if you guys are familiar with that. Yep, makes sense. Anyways, that really is, to be honest, you guys, that really is the majority of stuff that like to talk about for Market Monday that I think like isn't fucking boring. Now, what I could talk about, which is more interesting. I'm going to be writing an announcement about this later today. But again, like, yeah, we are now, I'll erase this too. We are going to have Twitter ambassadors. Make sense? So, do you guys know about this game called Off the Grid? Are you guys aware of this game's existence called Off the Grid? Okay, so Off the Grid is this, I guess, apparently, like, heavily capitalized game. It's like a battle royale type of game, which is something that's been kind of faddish for the last, I don't know, 8 years or so, 7 years. And effectively, this is an actual Web3 game. It's actually on the Avalanche network, possibly on a subnet. I think it's on C-Chain, but they're also building something. I don't fucking know. Anyways, it's a real Web3 game, and arguably, it's actually getting eyeballs. It has over 3 million wallets apparently into it. But most important about this, GameFi narrative time. Does that make sense? So GameFi right now is shifting into focus with this game kind of creating this new thing. Does that make sense? Do you guys get it? Anyways, the point being is, I haven't even played Off the Grid, but I'm assuming somebody I talked to yesterday did in fact play it quite a bit. The fact of the matter is that PYRESWAP's marketing, we're going to begin leaning in more. Yes, I know, Electronic. Isn't that great? Yeah. Isn't that great? Yeah. Yeah, that's how you know they're not gonna fucking fuck it up. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Yeah, and Electronic, they don't even have they do have over 3 million wallets, but yeah, like legitimately, like all the research behind it is apparently it's fucking Web3 and it uses C-Chain. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Electronic, it's almost like this is why we don't mention Tomb Forks when we do the marketing for fucking PYRESWAP. Does that make sense? Do you get it? Because if they market it as a Web3 game, people would fucking ruin it. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah, like I think that's great that they don't mention. Yeah, I think it's great that they don't fucking mention that shit. Like they hired a bunch of Twitch streamers or whatever to play the fucking game. Does that make sense? And they're just playing the game. Now everything you get in the game, like they're NFTs right now. And by the way, Electronic, they're not launching a token anytime soon. In theory, they might launch a token later or whatever, but I think it's fucking great they're not launching a token. I was also proud as shit of Layer 0 for doing that as well. Like, just because you're on the blockchain doesn't mean you need your own financial instrument. Like, if you're gonna get into banking, you better know that you're getting into banking. Does that make sense? A lot of people don't know they're getting into banking when they launch their own instrument, which is why they fucking fuck it up. So, like, I think it's great. I think it's great that they're not launching their fucking token. Yeah, Layer 0, I don't think needed a token either, but again, I'm not here to fucking tell them what they need to do. They ended up doing it later anyways, but anyways, the GameFi narrative is about for PYRESWAP. We have nothing to do with Off the Grid. Does that make sense? We have nothing to do with Off the Grid. But the fact of the matter is that this GameFi narrative, like taking into the, like showing up into the, what do I even describe it here? Taking precedence, showing face, being a thing. Does that make sense? Yeah, Electronic, I don't think you listened to what I just said. Yeah, but I appreciate you. I think that's generally the case anyway. So the point being here is that we're going to have Twitter ambassadors because of the GameFi narrative emerging. And our first Twitter ambassador, again, I'm going to write the name on the board, at Necessary Growth. He might even be in this chat right now. He might even be watching the show. I have no idea. Yeah, is he? We'll see. But regardless, yeah. Also known as Naldo, is our very first Twitter ambassador. Make sense to you guys? Oh wow, I just knocked all the textbooks off the thing here. Anyways, what I'm getting at here is that we're probably going to get more Twitter ambassadors because these Twitter ambassadors allow us to do things like, one, possibly have Twitter spaces where I'm not the only person talking, and then two, additionally, they have their own followings and they end up just talking about PYRESWAP a lot once they become real believers in the fucking project. So I think that one key thing that I've learned about marketing in the last few months is that, like, don't just pay anybody to cover you. Because, like, what you really want to aim for is you want to aim for people to understand the project to cover you. Like, if they can't understand the project, why the fuck would you want them to cover you? They're not even going to talk about you correctly, right? So if they can't understand the project, then you're basically paying them to tell lies about you, right? Right? They're going to get something wrong, or at least say stuff that's factually incorrect, if that makes sense. Anyways, that's what we have going on. And I'm pretty bullish about it because from here, this sets the precedent of us having more and more Twitter ambassadors. Does that make sense? Product ambassadors. And these ambassadors will also create content on behalf of the project. Speaking of which, we'll be ramping that up for ourselves pretty soon. There was, in fact, the Nobel for Economics was awarded to these authors from 2012. One of the authors, Darren Asimoglu, by the way, he was the guy who I talked about last week saying that he doesn't believe that the AI thing is going to work out. Just to be clear. I don't know if that means anything. But yeah. I guess I didn't write this in my notes, but I do have this up on my thing. This guy Asimoglu, by the way, I don't necessarily agree with Asimoglu on everything, but like Nobel winning economist. AI will bust. Anyways, hope that's not true. Yeah, no, just like that it's, I think that like by the time they find a use case, Charlotte, it'll have been extremely overblown is what he's saying. Yeah, that's what his narrative was. Yep. Anyways, that was when I talked about him before, he hadn't won the Nobel yet. So he won the Nobel like last week. Does that make sense? Yeah. Does that make sense? So he won the Nobel like last week. Does that make sense? So the guy who said AI will bust, he was saying that months ago. He just won the Nobel last week, not for anything related to AI. He won the Nobel for a book he wrote in 2012. Does that make sense? Yeah, and it's mostly like, again, like it's the same economic thing where, again, you know, you guys, like this project, take it seriously. Like, I mean, take it fucking seriously. Like, this is a real fucking use case project. It's like a real use case project. It requires people wrapping their heads around it, you know? But like, this is one of the things that allows the narrative to fucking change. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, CJ. Thanks. Yeah, me too. Me too. Like again, because like right now, the saturation of meme coins, a lot of people are concluding that like, okay, if this is the use case, there is no use case. Does that make sense? But by the way, guys, do you guys know how a sine wave works? I'll tell you this. So if we think about like the quality of like the products being created or whatever, and we think about like the quality like going down over time, it has to reach this weird pivot point where it gets to the lowest point before it starts going up again, right? So if we're going to actually create like the real dApps that people actually fucking use, so to speak, and by the way, like when they're talking about these use cases, they're going back like a decade now. Like, hey, it's been 15 years. Like, are you guys going to get to a use case or not? And PYRESWAP is. Yeah, PYRESWAP is. I don't know if everybody else is, to be honest. I think that, I think that what I realize now is like blockchain as a thing was like a happy accident of an invention, but most people aren't really ready to kind of like wrap their mind around like what exactly are the underlying theoretics of design. Like for what it does that actually solves human problems. And the human problems it can solve, by the way, I can pull this up. Here's a word. Microfinance. You guys know about this word? Here, let me see if I can pull this up on my Okay, so microfinance and this right here are what I would consider like proto-finance. Yeah. You know where I should really go? I should go and I should look at Okay, so the common bond of association or common bond is a social connection among the members of credit unions and cooperative banks. Common bond substitute for collateral, blah, 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 in the early stages of financial system development. So, like again, yeah, indeed. I don't know what micro lending means, maybe it does, but like what we're talking about here, this is actually referred to as solidarity lending. The common bond has since played an important role in facilitating the development of microfinance for poor people. So like, again, like right now, I need you guys to understand the GPSC in its current state is a microfinance system. Make sense? Literally, like here, by the way, is this guy's example of like how the common bond works and how you build this observation of credit unions kind of creating. Does that make sense? Yeah. You have this microcredit is the extension of very small loans, micro loans to impoverished borrowers. This right here is not exactly what we're talking about here, but like it is what it is. What we're getting at here is probably what I would call proto-finance. Maybe the word I should use is proto-finance. Does Wikipedia have proto-finance? Let me see if Google pulls anything for that. No, this is of course a bunch of trademark names. Okay, anyways, yet the fact of the matter is that like the ingredients that what you have is like for the purpose of building organizations like this. Like this is what dApps are for. Yeah, it's literally in the white paper. People don't read the white paper. Yeah, I'm talking about the Ethereum white paper. But this has just again been lost. This has just been lost. Like it's like now you would think people still kind of like are tracking the Ethereum white paper and stuff, but it's completely lost. And I just realized that people don't know how to design this stuff. They think more about like the ideas that come to their head versus following instructions. And that's human nature, I think. Terrible, but yeah, it is what it is. Anyways, yeah, I hope that makes sense to you guys. As far as there being an aftermarket with like this Web3 game of off the grid, where they're not even talking about them being a Web3 game, that is, I think that's the most bullish thing ever. Because like marketing something with a Web3 game, you now have to get away from like an ocean of garbage. Like, does that make sense to you guys? Like, you now have to like distance yourselves from the fact that other people have like ruined the shit out of something. Yeah. Anyways, making sense. Makes sense to you guys. I'm trying to come up with a different acronym, a different way to describe the word, like instead of using this word tomb fork. right? This right here, like, legitimately makes people think that you're running something unsustainable and it's a fucking scam. They're not going to, like, connect the dots. Does that make sense? So, like, eventually, we're gonna have to overhaul the websites and the documentation for all of our tomb forks, but I'm probably gonna, like, eliminate this concept of calling it a fucking tomb fork. Rather, an acronym I'm thinking about, like, talking about, one of them was DSSA, which means Decentralized Seigniorage Share Application. Right? Another one I'm thinking about would be about creating the focusing on the element of the boardroom and the bonding as like the credit facilitator app. Does that make sense? I know that CFA is like not an acronym we should use, but I was thinking about using something like that. Maybe DCFA, and this would be decentralized credit facilitation application. Make sense? There's a couple of acronyms that like I just can't use because they're already being used by somebody else, but like yeah. I know that people are using CTO right now to say community takeover. That's the worst thing in the world, to start taking the word for chief technology officer and turning it into something else. I wish them the best. Yeah. Yeah, I think DSSA makes sense. Yeah, decentralized seigniorage share. Yeah, I would call it seigniorage share, CJ, because CJ, Bitcoin is a decentralized seigniorage protocol. Yeah. And by the way, calling it a protocol doesn't make any sense. Yeah, do you know what a protocol means? Yeah. Yeah. The forms of ceremony and etiquette observed by diplomats. A code of conduct. The first copy of a treaty. Yeah. No, CJ, yeah. That's not what a protocol is even. Yeah. Like, when they refer to it as a protocol, they're literally referring to it as their own set of instructions. When you call anything a protocol, you're completely eliminating the idea of decentralization. So when you talk about protocol-owned liquidity, they're doubling down on their own idiocy. Like POL, protocol-owned liquidity, like stop calling them protocols. I was guilty of this in the past. This is a terrible thing to call them. Yeah. Well, I'm going to say DSSA, probably. Decentralized Seigniorage Share Application. Yeah. Decentralized Seigniorage Share Application. DSSA. Because, like, that is literally what they're trying to be. They're trying to be the exact thing from Robert Sam's paper. Yeah. DSSA, this is a fucking sofa store. This is? Decentralized Financial System. Oh, DFS. DFS is a fucking... DFS is a sofa store. Yeah. Okay, wait, I'm probably... DSSA. I'm thinking DSSA. Yeah, that's fucking as easy as it gets. Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, it doesn't even need to be simple, because the fact of the matter is all we're doing is describing it as something else other than a tomb fork. Yeah, like it's not even about like I need to make this the nomenclature. I just need to avoid the fucking nomenclature. Yeah, I don't need to fucking even like make this the branding term or anything like that. It's just about fucking not calling it a fucking tomb fork. Yeah. Legitimately, they're only going to be called a component of the GPSC, right? Does that make sense? Like, it's not like we need to fucking focus too much even on this acronym. But I think this acronym is the most, like, yeah. Yeah, Remus, it does not have to be clear. It does not have to be clear. You do not need a maximum of 3 words. Yeah. Yeah, it does not have to be clear. Yeah. Remus, yeah, how does a blockchain work? Yeah. Yeah, Remus, how is consensus finalized? Do you know this? Because nobody knows this. Yeah, like you'll hear people explain it with different ways. Yeah. Yeah. And technically, this middle word is a single word. Yeah. Validation. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like not even for the point of like, hey guys, we have this bright shiny new object. Legitimately, the other tomb forks, by the way, which include like ribs and fucking hoggy and affogato, like we're gonna end up like marking that to our who we have in our following right away already. Does that make sense? So like we just call them DSSAs, and like legitimately like everybody knows that means tomb fork, but like we're not going to effectively win anybody's heart and mind by continuing to describe it as a fucking tomb fork. So like I don't even care to say the word DSSA once a week. I'm just not gonna say the word tomb fork anymore. And if it gets asked like, are these tomb forks? Like, yeah, they are DSSAs. Yeah, like again, that's just the idea of rebranding it. Calling it a tomb fork simplifies it to the point that it's nonsensical. Yeah. Yep. Anyways. Does that make sense to you guys? I mean, in official comms it can be CJ, but we don't need to even have that many official comms about it. Yeah. Like, I would just refer to it as mechanisms, yeah. Yeah. Thinking of PYRESWAP as a DEX is also kind of like... Yeah, thinking of PYRESWAP as a DEX or an AMM, like, it has those mechanisms in the you know, like, as it's in its fundamental factory, in its core suite, but, like, it's not in our interest that we want to be hosting, like, we don't necessarily need to make anything about the business model about hosting for other projects. Like, we don't need that. Does that make sense? Yeah, like, oh, hey, other projects should play here. If they figure out the advantage for themselves, they would. Do you know what I mean? We can explain that in documentation, too. Like, why should another project deploy here? It's like, well, if they understand the difference in, like, the liquidity theoretics, they will. But, like, if they're only going to do a single fucking liquidity pool, they shouldn't deploy here. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. Like, yo, your project is probably gonna die, and therefore don't deploy here. You know? Like, we already have enough dead liquidity. Like, I guess it doesn't matter to a DEX, but like, I don't think that this is like something that we need to necessarily cater to. Yeah. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. Today is a national holiday in the United States, and because of this, like arguably the markets are a little bit slow. It seems that somebody sold Pyre Phantom possibly from the Dow King hype. They bought on the Dow King hype and then sold off when they perhaps think it didn't carry. But it seemed like the chart recovered pretty well from it. Yeah, like I don't really see anything that looks fucking that looks like it's any type of disaster. Yeah. Again, we're not making the coin get bought more, we're making it get sold less, right? But we're gonna end up just doing the marketing and then actually making that happen in the background, content creation and stuff like that, so that like we just end up with the right fucking user base. Do you guys get it? Yeah. Yeah. No number matters other than the user base. Yeah, I know that everyone doesn't understand this, but like, yeah, it doesn't. Like solve the user base problem, and then effectively you have marmosets and Zugzwang. Yeah, like all the rates you want will fucking show up when the user base shows up. And I don't mean wallet count, I mean human actor count. Individual person with their own stomachs and their own brains and their own bills and their own agendas and their own codes of ethics. Yeah, this is the individuation thing. By the way, Bitcoin wouldn't work without Homo sapien actors, to be clear. Like, I need you to understand that this is a component in the tech stack. Like, none of these projects work without Homo sapien actors. You know, there's a guy, I think me and Mr. Producer met them at Consensus earlier this year, and they were building a blockchain that solved the blockchain trilemma, and it was apparently like technologically off the chain, you know, as it were, or should I say on the chain. But like, it was just an amazingly great blockchain. And the fact of the matter is that if you don't have enough like marmosets playing your game, like the thing just doesn't have that uptime. It doesn't have that shit. Yeah, even here, right? The gas prices spike on Phantom, and we end up with a Epoch getting lagged. Yeah, it just does not function until you have that user base. I think a lot of people right now, like, are still playing the IWV game right now as if you understand the IWV game. Yeah. The IWV game you see now is still not the real IWV game. Like, the real IWV game happens when the user base is saturated. Does that make sense? When you see, oh yeah, what's going on? What's going on, Naldo? Naldo, I already announced it, that we are going to be announcing officially that Naldo is our first Twitter ambassador for PYRESWAP. Official, link in bio, all that good stuff. More on that later. Yep, let's go. And yes, by the way, guys, having Twitter ambassadors is great. Why? Because we can host a Twitter space where I'm not the only person talking. Brilliant. Can't wait. We can also get more language groups following us, right? Yeah. And Naldo's been here. For weeks and months. He's just now firstly a Twitter ambassador. But yes, welcome, Naldo. Yeah. And legitimately, like, I want to say this as well. Like, when you're doing something and you're kind of like shifting the paradigm, you know, Bitcoin didn't even have a price chart for the first year. Does that make sense? Like, Bitcoin had no price chart for the first year at all. Does that make sense? Like, in theory, there might have been somebody mapping the kilowatt hours against like the Bitcoin being mined or whatever, but like it didn't really have a price chart in the first year. The Bitcoin pizza, that event was like, the reason that's part of Bitcoin's history is because that's like one of the things that kind of helped establish the price for Bitcoin. Make sense? So the fact of the matter is, yeah, like having more things, having more activity on Twitter to help support our amazing Twitter team right now, that's happening. Yeah, that's happening. So Naldo is the first one. Hopefully he's like the prefect and the beacon and sets a shining example for others on all the things a Twitter ambassador should be. But most importantly, like when I think about like the criteria, like for like these, anybody with a following, they're willing to sell their KOL-ship, and I find it really fucking annoying. It's like, do they understand? Right? Like, do they believe? And I want you guys to know something. Based on the level of understanding I see in crypto, lots of people don't understand what they're investing in the first place. Does that make sense? Like, so when people buy meme coins, they don't understand what they're investing in. When people buy like the newest blockchain token that's launching, they're having a launch ceremony, whatever, they also kind of don't understand, but they just have this belief enough to take action, right? They have enough things going on there as far as like brand value, community value, you fucking name it. Does that make sense? They find safety in the herd. It helps them make the decision. But the fact of the matter is that you need to have a certain amount of leaders in order to fucking create that size following. Does that make sense? So the important part when we kind of analyze our Twitter ambassadors is like, do they understand it to the point where they can even answer questions about it? Does that make sense? Because like if they're going, if they don't feel like they can talk about it without you, they're not really helping. Does that make sense? And I'm not trying to sound fucking cruel and unusual, but like you need to, or should I say I need to spend the time with all of our Twitter ambassadors. Does that make sense? I need to spend time with all of our Twitter ambassadors to make sure that they're actual, like, I guess you could say subject matter experts. Do you know what I mean? Like no matter what that takes. And if they're willing, then I'm willing, right? Does anybody here think I'm not willing to do the teaching? Does anybody here feel that like I would not fucking do the teaching? Does anybody feel like that? Like I'm not here fucking all the time doing it, and then some? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly. So like that is that's got to be the signal that we attract. And by the way, it's the same concept. Like having people promote you before, it's not the same thing as having them understand. You know, Naldo, I was saying this before. I was reading a post earlier today somebody was saying, hey, we've now seen crypto for 15 years. There are no fucking use cases, like blah, 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 blah. And I'm reading this right now, and I'm like, I am building the first use case right now. Like the actual first use case, like the end all dApp, like people will actually get multiple use cases out of this dApp that solves financial problems for them for real. And like, it happens to be like on the sine wave, right? It just has to get worse before it gets better. You know, Mr. Producer was agreeing with me earlier. Apparently, it's possible that during the crypto summer, you have like the, I guess what we could call the lower quality projects. Like they show up first. Does that make sense? Do you guys remember NFTs in 2021? You guys remember NFTs in 2021? How big NFTs were? Right? And then NFTs, like, they all fell the fuck apart. I'm still holding a few. Yeah. Well, CryptoKitties goes back to like 2016. So CryptoKitties is like one of the earliest NFT projects. But like, if we look at meme coins this cycle, like NFTs were last cycle, it's like, okay, what that implies is that there's going to be this shift of narrative and like a shift of quality to different projects. So right now, we have off the grid showing up, and this kind of, in my opinion, is rolling out the red carpet for the GameFi narrative. So by the way, guys, I don't know if I mentioned this yet. We will be adding more GameFi features. Yeah, so the first thing, by the way, Javery correct, yeah. Like Javery, all it has to do is be saturated to the point where most people are losing money. So like right now, like most meme coins are not making money. So therefore that like, it doesn't make sense that most people are making money from it, right? Like the only people who are making money is like a small group of people that are honeypotting people. Does that make sense? From like just launching the new ones, right? And they just launch and they just launch and they launch. And this becomes like the hype thing. They're like, oh shit, you need to get in at launch. PYRESWAP is about making money all the time, not just at launch. Make sense? We're adding more GameFi features. One of them, by the way, leaderboards. Yes. So leaderboards, by the way, leaderboards that even allow for you to mint NFTs based on your leaderboard standing. And these NFTs, by the way, they are title. Well, I'm gonna get into that later. Yeah, the NFTs will come later. Anyways, yeah. So we'll be adding more GameFi features in order to co-brand and focus on the GameFi aspect of the GPSC. By the way, other parts of GameFi coming for PYRESWAP include things like shit, we got fucking card games. This one guy, by the way, his name is Red Tiger Pro. He built a fucking MMO game. He's working on an MMO game right now. There is a game designer working on an MMO game, and when I presented PYRESWAP at Consensus this year, he's like, okay, this is probably the tokenomic system that I think can handle my game. Does that make sense? Because he's looking at so many other... Yeah, Remus. Ours actually will work. Yeah, ours will actually work. Yeah. There are already a lot that suck. Yeah, you keep thinking that, like, those are card games. Those are on products that can die, right? Those are, like, products that red candles kill. Correct? Right? Yeah. Right, yeah. We don't have that problem, Remus. Yeah, we don't have that problem. Yeah, so I think what you're misunderstanding is that, like, all of these games enhance the economy. Like, they're part of the economy. It's not like we're creating this separate card game which has nothing to do with the boardroom or the witch vault. Does that make sense? Yeah, like, everything that we build is, like, part of it, not like a separate thing. Yeah, so when you think about, like, oh no, these card games are already a lot. Yeah, a lot that suck. Yeah, nothing I build sucks, and nothing I build will die. Make sense? And by the way, I only designed it. I'm not a real dev. Yeah. What you guys don't understand is that the credit card NFTs are also fucking playing cards. Yeah. Don't try to wrap your head around what I'm doing. Yeah, Remus, not us. Yeah, not us. I'm an actual economist. Yeah, they always just make the new cards worthless. Yeah, Remus, if you think that holding the card is what makes you the money, you don't get it. Yeah, like if you're just holding the card for a pump and dump, like you're the dumbass. Does that make sense? Yeah, like playing the game makes you more money than holding the card. Okay, like guarantee you. Yeah, I will never make it that I will never make something that serves the speculator more than the utilizer. Does that make sense? And by the way, Remus, we have a dex. Does that make sense? So we always have the ability to refill a prize pool. Does that make sense? We don't need people to just bet against each other. We always have a prize pool getting refilled. Does that make sense? Yeah, do these other card games have dexes? Like, people don't think about this. Anyways, yeah. Yeah, like, so by the way, when I talk about this NFT standard, do you guys know about bicycle cards? Do you guys know about the like cards that you play poker and fucking spades with and hearts with? Yeah, okay. So those have a suit like this. It goes ace, then 2 through 10, then jack, queen, king. Right? Sorry, jack, queen, king. Would you guys agree? Everybody falls in here? Oh yeah, the Joker. I'm not gonna fucking mention the Joker. Yeah. The Joker doesn't make sense because CJ, the point here is that we've got 1, 10, 11, 12, 13, right? Would you guys agree that we have 13 as like this total draw, as it were? Like within a suit, there's 13 cards, correct? Correct, Remus. Great. So would you believe, Remus, would you guys agree that in this deck you can play multiple games? Would you guys agree that when you're playing fucking Yu-Gi-Oh, you can only play Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Agree? You can only play Pokemon with Pokemon, right? Right? You can only play Magic the Gathering with Magic the Gathering, correct? Alright, CJ is just, yeah. Okay, do you guys get it? Like, you only play that game with that card, right? Like, you only play Yu-Gi-Oh with Yu-Gi-Oh. Oh no, Electronic, you're still misunderstanding. Okay, the GPSE NFT standard, the GPSE NFT standard, by the way, has 13 traits. 13 traits. Yes, Charlotte, exactly. Charlotte, exactly. You can play dozens of games with this one deck. Does that make sense? So the fact of the matter is, every single NFT has 13 fucking traits. Do you guys understand? Do you guys know what a trait is? Do you guys know what a layer is on an NFT? By the way, this does not apply to title NFTs. Okay, do you guys know what a trait is or a layer? Yeah, we're not talking about a single player game. Oh yeah, like solitaire, right? Yeah. There is, I would say single player game theory isn't that interesting. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, anyways. Yeah. Anyways, the whole point being, like a hat or shoe, exactly, layers. Yeah. Layers. So on an avatar NFT, like a profile picture NFT, you have things like the background. You have the fucking, the eyes, right? The fucking, the hat, right? The fucking, if they smoke a shirt, right? Like outfit, right? Did I say smoke a shirt? I meant like smoke a cigarette, right? But like cigarette. Or maybe they have like a pipe, or they're, I don't know, whatever. Whatever they're smoking, if they're smoking a fucking chalet, who fucking knows, right? Yeah. Does that make sense? Background, eyes, hat, outfit, sig, right? There's 13 layers. Yeah, exactly. A GPSE NFT has 13 layers for the purpose of what? Making it so that each of these NFTs is applicable to multiple games. You don't have to play the games at all, by the way. You don't have to play the games at all. You can just use it as a fucking credit card. Yeah, legitimately. You can just use it as a fucking credit card. Yeah, but like the traits are going to matter. There might be a card that is worth thousands of dollars in a certain game aspect, but as a credit card, it's worthless. And there could be another NFT that as a credit card is worth thousands of dollars, but in a game, it's worthless. Does that make sense? But it's all part of the same standard, which makes it like omni-applicable. Does that make sense? So like our NFT standard will be 13 layers. Some of them might even be blank. Like we don't even need them all like in the actual aesthetics. Like you don't need to have 13 different things. But the fact of the matter is that they'll have a value assigned to them, so that way in the game they have an aspect. Certain games might only look at the top 3 traits. Certain games might look at 13 traits. Does that make sense? You guys get it? Maybe you don't get it. It's okay. Anyways, since we're in the GameFi narrative, I should at least explain to you that I'm also really good at GameFi. Yeah, like arguably game design and economy design, kind of the same thing. Yeah. Yeah, so legitimately, like, yeah, like I know that like, oh no, they suck. I know they suck. I literally help those projects. And literally what they do, by the way, they literally have these Gen 1, right? They launch like these Gen 1 collection, right? And then what they do is they launch a Gen 2 collection, right? And then the Gen 2 collection is better than the Gen 1 collection. Like, okay, you're fucked. Yeah, we fucked over all their early investors, right? It's like, why did you do that? If anything, you should make it so that like your Gen 1 guys have like a greater value, or they have like a lower cost of minting, or whatever the fuck it is. Either way, it's nonsense. It's not a real fucking economy. It's not a real, it's not even a real finance system, right? It's just like, hey, we're gonna keep minting these collectibles, and the newer ones are gonna be better, so therefore we're devaluing the old ones. Do you guys know, like, I mean, okay, Remus, I know, I'm gonna address Remus. Do you guys know of a project called, a company called Wizards of the Coast? Who here knows about a company called Wizards of the Coast? Okay, Remus. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna pull this up. Wizards of the Coast, I'm gonna pull it up on Wikipedia. Wizards of the Coast is an American publisher of games, most of which are based on fantasy and science fiction themes. Indeed necessary. Now though, they literally also built Magic the Gathering. They became the publisher of Dungeons and Dragons and Pokemon. Does that make sense? Yes, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, and Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know if you guys know what $1 billion sounds like, right? But like, yeah, like Wizards of the Coast, again, 34-year-old company. I don't even want to know what they're worth. Do I want to know what they're worth? 1,000 employees, by the way. 1,000 employees already tells you. Yeah. What I'm telling you is, Remus, it isn't hard to figure out how to launch the correct way of a fucking collectible card game. Here's what you don't do. You don't copy off other Web3 fucking devs. Does that make sense? Like, never copy another Web3 dev. Like, holy shit. Like, this is what Web3 devs do. They just copy off the dev directly to the left of them. And they just end up fucking shooting themselves in the foot. What you should copy is Wizards of the fucking Coast and how they do it. Nobody does this. Nobody fucking thinks like this. Does that make sense? Remus, Wizards of the Coast, when they launch like new games, they launch a first edition version of these cards. Does that make sense? Right? They launch a first edition. There was a time recently where first edition Charizards, like Pokemon cards, were going for like 100 grand or 200 grand. I used to own one of those when I was a kid. We had a first edition Charizard. Yeah, I have no idea where it is now. Yeah, exactly, Remus. They keep the first edition. Do you know what Remus, do you know what Wizards of the Coast doesn't do? They don't keep making first edition Charizards to the point of crashing the market. Does that make sense? Like, they understand what their job is. So again, Remus, all other founders who build this shit, they don't know what their fucking job is. Yeah, like, they don't know what their job is. They're like, oh, people want this. Should I just create more of them? No. Wizards of the Coast understand scarcity. They understand scarcity. By the way, do you think that there's some law preventing Wizards of the Coast from making first edition Charizards right now? Do you guys think the government is preventing Wizards of the Coast? Yeah. Now though, do you think that there is like some law preventing Wizards of the Coast? Yeah, that prevent from creating a new first edition Charizard? No, they do it because they know what their job is. Does that make sense? Yeah, they own it. Yeah, they decide whether or not they do it. So what this means is they stick to their fucking principles. They have guiding principles. It's that fucking easy. Like, so when you build stuff in Web3, first of all, have fucking principles. Like, understand what scarcity is. Like, if you don't, if you fucking don't, I don't think CJ will. Yeah, like, I don't think they will. Like, to be honest, they probably own the right to that. But, like, the fact of the matter is that, like, Nintendo wouldn't do it either because they're both not fucking retarded. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, they're both not fucking retarded. They were like, oh yeah, I know what my fucking job is. Does that make sense? Like, I think, what was it? Tom Brady, when he decided to not retire and the guy paid 500 grand for, like, the last football he ever touched? Yeah. No, CJ, Wizards of the Coast prints it. Yeah, like, you're not listening. Yeah, why wouldn't I be talking about Nintendo? Yeah, why wouldn't I be talking about Nintendo then? Yeah. Also, Nintendo doesn't keep making their old games either. Like, almost like they know about that resale value too. Yeah, they don't just keep producing these old games. Yeah. CJ, but Wizards of the Coast used to when we were talking about first edition Charizards. Yeah. Yeah, like the original time. Like the original Pokemon. So, like, that's the Charizard I'm talking about. Like, that's the Charizard worth 200 grand. Like, not the Nintendo one now or whatever. Yeah. What's interesting is that Nintendo made cards like 70 years ago. Before Nintendo got into electronics, they were a card game company. Anyways, they understand their fucking job. Does that make sense? Like, they don't just like literally dilute the market with more first edition Charizards, right? So again, a Web3 dev does not understand their job. Like, so there, I hope that I literally assuaded your fears about like why we'll get it right and other products will just get it wrong. Does that make sense to you guys? They understand scarcity. Like, they're like, oh shit, every single person over there, I bet the CEO, like, they make a certain amount of money. Like, oh, you know what I should do? I should issue myself, as part of my compensation, 10 first edition Charizards every year, just to stack my compensation by 2 million. They don't fucking do that. Yeah, because they understand what their fucking job is. I was saying to Naldo yesterday, if you were gonna build a flight simulator, you should, as a fucking developer, first study how airplanes work. But people launch their own card games and they launch their own tokens without studying how card games work and definitely without studying how financial instruments work. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah. You know what, guys, I'm not even gonna debate who's doing this. CJ is extremely autistic, so he fucking gets these weird like twitches and he has to focus on this detail and then he has to completely tangent the conversation. Because he probably wasn't raised with a father who, I guess, you know, taught him how to focus. I'm kidding, CJ. But anyways, yeah. There's plenty of people like that on Discord, and you just learn to kind of tolerate the fact that they need to hyper-focus on things that aren't really related to the concept being taught. So the fact of the matter is that, like, again, they understand what their job is. If you want to figure out how to make this work on the fucking blockchain, figure out how it worked before the blockchain. Have you guys heard my spiel all about, like, studying banks in the 19th century? If you just studied banking in the 19th century, you'll be able to understand how DeFi plays out completely. Do you guys remember this? I say this only 17 times. Okay. Anyways, yeah. It's the same concept. Same concept. Yeah. I'm glad you guys are having a good time now. Holy shit. Yeah. Yeah, oh no, by the way, yeah. Actually, I can't wait, because yeah, CJ absolutely will be a contributor to Twitter Spaces. Anyways, we're going to get more Twitter ambassadors, so therefore that when we do have PYRESWAP focused Twitter Spaces, we can even just call them like the evolution of GameFi, right? We can make them GameFi related Twitter Spaces. Yeah, we will have effectively a larger and more variegated audience. Make sense to you guys? Yeah. Anyways, we're here at the hour mark. Yeah, exactly. Studying ballet. You know, arguably, yeah. Yeah, you know, CJ, arguably, I do study, like, from the whole circus aspect, right? So, from the whole circus aspect, I have studied a bunch of, like, the performing arts, as it were. Yeah. Or, like, stage art. So, I did study these things. Cirque du Soleil has a bunch of ballerinas, right? That's one of the most famous circuses around right now. Yeah, there's no market open right now, but we did talk a little bit about markets. Yeah, so Cirque du Soleil has a whole bunch of ballet stuff. Yeah, I have actually studied this stuff. I haven't actually taken ballet class myself, but like I have actually studied the the evolution of these type of subcultures, as it were. Anyways, this is the hour mark. Do you guys have any questions? We'll be making an announcement in a little bit concerning the Twitter ambassadorship for Naldo, aka Necessary Growth, and Alessio, were you here for the thing? Maybe you should just watch the recording. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming to the PYRESWAP show. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be making an announcement shortly. Thanks so much.